Let's talk about a woman you know intimately. Perhaps she's the one who stares back at you from the mirror each morning, her eyes a little more tired than the day before, but with a trained smile, ready for another day of performance. She is a masterpiece of civility, the personification of what we were taught to admire. She is the good daughter who swallowed her own opinions so as not to hurt her parents. She is the patient wife who learned to find beauty in renunciation and to call the absence of conflict peace. She is the tireless mother, a pillar of strength for everyone but herself. She is the competent professional who takes on more work than she should with a smile because to complain is unbecoming. She has become an expert in silences. The silence she keeps when a joke offends her, but laughing is easier. The silence that settles in when she gives up on explaining her feelings because no one would understand anyway. The silence that accompanies her at night when everyone is asleep and she asks herself, "And what about me? Where do I fit in all of this?" She is a plate spinner, keeping everyone's needs in the air. Children, husband, parents, boss, friends, and she does it with a grace that borders on the divine. But inside, her arms are trembling with exhaustion. She smiles when her soul wants to scream. She says yes with her lips, while every fiber of her being begs for a resounding no. For 20, 30, 40 years, she has played the role she was handed at birth. And let's be honest, she deserves an Oscar for this performance. Where did this character come from? She wasn't born this way. She was sculpted, molded with the most powerful tools that exist, social expectations and the promises of a fairy tale. Remember your childhood. Remember the voices that said, "Be a lady," which was code for "be quiet." "Don't be bossy," which was code for "don't lead." "Nice girls don't get angry," which was code for suppress your most powerful emotions. They showed you the stories of Cinderella, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, passive heroines whose greatest virtues were beauty, kindness, and the ability to endure suffering in silence until an external force, a prince, came to rescue them and give their lives meaning. The message was hammered into your soul. Your reward will come through sacrifice and waiting. Your validation will come from the outside. And so you learned to negotiate. You traded your voice for harmony. You traded your anger for acceptance. You traded your wildest desires for the security of being loved. They told you this was the path of virtue, a noble act of love. But here we are, after 40, and the bill has come due. Nobility didn't bring you the peace they promised, did it? It brought you a chronic anxiety, an exhaustion that no amount of sleep can cure, and a frightening sense of invisibility, of being a functional piece in everyone's life, but not the protagonist of your own. That promise wasn't a map to happiness. It was the blueprint for a cage, a comfortable, socially accepted, even praised cage, but a cage nonetheless. And it kept you safe in exchange for your wildest, most authentic essence. And what happened to all the parts of you that didn't fit inside that cage? Where did your anger go? Your ambition, your scandalous laughter, your inappropriate desires, your fierce need for justice? They didn't die. They were exiled. And Carl Jung, the great cartographer of the human soul, had a name for this exiled territory within us. He called it the shadow. The shadow is the basement of our psyche. It's where we throw everything we deem unacceptable, in order to be loved and accepted. And the dark truth, the shocking revelation that the good girl spends her entire life avoiding is this: everything you need to feel alive, powerful, and free is locked away in that basement. The shadow is not evil. It's not a monster. On the contrary, Jung spoke of the golden shadow, which is where we store our most magnificent qualities, but which, for some reason, we were taught to be ashamed of. Your leadership ability that was called bossiness. Your sharp intuition that was called craziness. Your boundless creativity that was called a waste of time. Your power to say enough, that was called selfishness. Every time you said yes when you meant no, a piece of your soul's gold went into the shadow. Every time you swallowed an injustice to avoid conflict, a part of your life force was stored there. The shadow became the vault of your true identity. And the good girl is just the exhausted guard who sits outside the door, afraid of what might happen if it were ever opened. And how does this shadow, this repressed energy, manifest in your life today after 40? It doesn't stay quietly in the basement. It leaks. It screams for attention in the most unexpected ways. It manifests as that disproportionate rage that explodes over something trivial. It's not about the dirty dishes in the sink. It's about the decades you felt like the only one responsible for keeping everyone's world in order. It manifests as that sharp pang of envy you feel when you see a woman living freely, unapologetically. That isn't a flaw on your part. It's your shadow whispering, that's what I miss. That freedom is yours too. It's a map, not a defect. It manifests in your relationships. Do you keep attracting men who need to be fixed? Emotionally unavailable men who see you as a mother, not a partner? It's because your good girl, caretaker energy is a magnet for wounded boys, not whole men. It manifests in your body. The constant migraines, the chronic back pain, as if you're carrying the weight of the world. The adrenal fatigue, the autoimmune diseases, where the body literally attacks itself. It is your repressed life force begging to be released. And most importantly, it manifests in your voice. When you finally start to speak your mind, to set a boundary, to ask for what you need, and someone, a partner, a child, a friend, looks at you and says, "Wow, you've changed. You're so difficult, so intense." Understand this as the greatest compliment of your life. Difficult is code for no longer manipulable. Intense is code for finally alive. It's not you who has changed. It's the good girl character who is finally exiting the stage. And the real woman, with her shadow and her light, is taking her place. And your authentic presence is a natural filter. It frightens mediocrity and attracts depth. At this point in your life, the crossroads is inevitable. There are only two paths ahead. The first is the path of stagnation. It's to continue being the good girl, to keep repressing the shadow, denying your needs, smiling through the pain. The result of this path is predictable. The exhaustion turns into bitterness. The bitterness poisons your relationships. You become a ghost woman, present in body but absent in spirit, watching life pass by from behind a window. It is a path of silence, resentment, and a deep loneliness, even if you're surrounded by people. The second path is the path of reclamation. It is the scariest path, but it is the only one that leads to life. It is to turn around, consciously descend into the basement of your soul, turn on a light, and look at everything you've hidden away. It's to look at your anger and say, "You are here to protect me. Thank you." It's to look at your ambition and say, "You are here to make me grow. Welcome." It's to look at your desires and say, "You are my life force. I honor you." Embracing your shadow doesn't make you a bad, selfish, or cruel person. That's what the cage made you believe. Embracing your shadow makes you a whole person. And a whole woman is a force of nature. She doesn't scream, but her calm is heard. She doesn't need to prove her worth because she feels it in her bones. She knows how to say no with a tranquility that is unquestionable. Her yes becomes 1,000 times more valuable because it is given by choice, not obligation. She learns to enjoy her own company, and her solitude transforms into a sacred solitude, a space for recharging, not a punishment. This path may cost you some relationships. People who benefited from your good girl version won't know how to deal with your whole version, and that is a blessing. It is your soul finally pruning the branches that were preventing you from growing. If this message has made your heart beat a little faster, if you felt a shiver of recognition, do not silence that feeling. It is the call of your soul, tired of living a small life. This journey of integrating the shadow is not easy. It requires a brutal courage. The courage to disappoint others in order to be true to yourself. But it is the most important work you will do in the second half of your life. And the best part is that you are not alone. There is a collective awakening happening, a silent army of women who are shedding their good girl costumes and putting on the armor of their authenticity. Every time one of us heals, she lights the path for the others. So, if you are ready to stop apologizing for your strength, if you are ready to trade the approval of others for your own peace, like this video as an act of acknowledging your own journey. Share it with a sister, a friend, a woman you love who desperately needs to remember that she was not born to be a rough draft. Subscribe to the channel so we can continue this conversation, strengthening one another. Because the world doesn't need more perfect, silent women. The world desperately needs your voice, your wisdom, your power. The world needs you, whole, free, and finally at peace.